Be talking about planning out your year and preventing plateaus, because it is not a matter of if, but when. The plateaus are going to come, and if you plan on trying to strive to reach some kind of goals this year, then you want to already have that plateau prevention plan worked in. So the first way that you can plan progression into your workouts is through rep ranges. Now that's like the most basic. And I've talked before in various scopes about phases. So there's strength phase, there's an endurance phase, there's a hypertrophy phase, there's power phases of rep ranges. So all these rep ranges do different things for you, but a lot of times we pick one and we try to just stick with that one. Or our clients, like we get them in one rep range and then they kind of love that one, so we don't take them out of it. The first thing that you can do to plan for that progression, and any good program will obviously have different rep ranges. So when you're using different rep ranges, the second thing that's going to be affected and that you should be changing is the amount of weight that is being used, which, even though I have them as two different tips, they correlate, because the lower your rep range is, the lower amount of reps that you're doing during your workout, the heavier you should be lifting. So your client should not be, or you should not be picking up the exact same weight every time. So the amount of weight that you're using for 15 to 20 reps is going to be completely different than the amount of weight that you would use to do 6 to 8 reps. So automatically those two, one should affect the other. So every time they lower the amount of weight that they're using, they should be able to go with higher reps. And if they want to increase the amount of weight, they want to gain their strength, and you're going to have to lower the reps a little bit. And you should be doing both, even if they only want to work on their endurance, or they only want to work on their strength. You know, a lot of times there's the myths in the industry of, you know, high reps for cutting and things like that. All rep ranges matter. So you need to make sure that you're including all of them in the plan and have them progressing throughout. So you want to change their rep ranges. You want to switch up the amount of weight that they are using. You want to change up the rest periods. And again, these things aren't all the time or all at once. You want to strategically do them. So it's going to be your rep ranges, the amount of weight that you're using, your rest periods should change, because just like as a person lifts heavier, they're doing lower reps, they also need to be having longer rest periods. So the heavier you're lifting, the longer you need to be resting. And the lighter the weight is, the less you should be resting. So if you're doing high reps, you should just be pretty much like not stopping, really. Like once you're past the like 15 rep mark, it's almost like there is no rest period. So that's like usually those type of circuits where you're just kind of going from one thing to another, or you're just going from one exercise straight into the next. That's because the higher amount of reps that you're doing, the less rest you need to be able to recover. But when you start getting down to like 6 reps, 5 reps, 4 reps, you need like a minute or two of rest. The heavier you're going, sometimes up to 3 minutes. So that needs to be worked into the plan as well, varying the rest periods. So we're looking at rep ranges need to change up, weight that you're using, like how heavy you're lifting, needs to change. Sometimes you should go heavier, sometimes you should go lighter. The rest periods should change, so they'll be anywhere from no rest all the way up to 3 minutes of rest, based on the type of exercises and amount of reps that you're doing. And then your exercise type is the fourth one. So changing up whether they're using compound movements or isolation movement. Compound movements is like your squats, your bench press, lunges, things like that, where you're incorporating more than one muscle at once. Overhead press, things like that, push-ups, versus your isolation, which is if you're just doing bicep curls. So you're changing those up because one type of exercise burns more calories than the other and is going to get the heart rate up a little bit more than the other. So you want to strategically change them up based on the client's progression. So rep ranges, amount of weight used, rest periods, exercise type, and also cardio. So, you know, because obviously those first 4 kind of all depend on lifting. You know, we're all talking about lifting, kind of, even though sometimes you're lifting in a cardio like range. Lifting and adding in your cardio needs to be strategic. Again, you don't want to do it all at once. You don't want to come out of the gate doing the max amount of reps, doing, you know, the max amount of weight, adding in multiple days of cardio, and having nowhere to go when you plateau, because you will plateau or your client will plateau. So you have to plan these things in. So that's the biggest thing, is changing them up no matter how much you love it. Even with your like DVDs and stuff like that. That's one of the things that a lot of people get caught up on, and they don't realize that they only buy the types of DVDs that they like. And we all kind of like the same stuff. So the thing that you like, you're probably doing an overkill, and you may not realize how many of your workouts are the exact same way. Like they're all keeping you in like a 10 to 12 rep range, or they all don't have rest periods, because some people don't like rest periods. They feel uncomfortable with them, and they feel like I must not be doing anything if I'm resting. And when you're in a true strength phase, you need to rest. You need a lot of rest. And a person that's used to doing circuits, that's very uncomfortable for them. And they're like, I need to do something. I should be like jumping rope, or they want to go like hop on the elliptical or something during the rest periods, because they're like, I should still be moving. But each phase has its own benefits. So when you do that, you're negating the benefits of that phase. So sometimes it's not necessarily about just doing what we want. You should have an element of the things that you love incorporated, but you should adhere to what that phase is about. So that means lowering your rest if you need to, or people like me that hate moving fast through workouts, that means that sometimes you gotta do that too and have those like 30 seconds. The same way that you want to work in a plan for how to strategically increase the intensity of what you're doing, or the type of exercises, and have these little strategies in place so that you're constantly doing stuff to prevent the plateaus, you want to do the same thing with your eating, because the same rule applies for both. You want to start off doing the minimum that it takes to get the results, so that when you get to the point that you're doing the maximum, you're actually like close to your goal, and not doing that, you know, months before it's time, before you're even close to your goal. So if you have 100 pounds to lose, you're going to have a pretty long journey. So it doesn't make sense to like doing more up front. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to hit your goals faster. It means things are going to start off fast at first, and then you're going to hit a plateau and have a lot less options because you've already done everything. So people don't realize that in the beginning, you could typically get away with the minimum instead of the maximum. So ride it out while you can, because you will reach a point in your workouts or in your fitness life, you know, where you have to do more. And that's a harsh reality when you get to that point. So, you know, procrastinate on that point for as long as possible, because one day you will have to do more reps and more, you know, or longer workouts or something like that.